I feel like Bill Murray. Is this Groundhog? Doing this over and over?
We just switched.
Please sit down. Yeah, right. You can't fool me. All you did was change chairs. Yeah. Well, it just goes to show you that there has been a concentration in the social service side as a generic category in legislative activity, and rightly so, and revolving around health, revolving around housing, revolving around issues associated with that, aging and physical ailments and challenges of one kind and another, and have been manifesting themselves especially today. And in this particular instance, it's housing. And there's two things that we wanted to particularly have for a public signing today. One is simply related to housing as a generic term, but it covers a multitude of programs and issues and responses to felt needs associated with those issues. For example, substance abuse and mental health support. Housing services for those folks who are trying to stay clean and sober. Rental assistance programs for those in need who want to take themselves off the streets and into first shelter and then into housing. Reestablished homes prevention and rapid rehousing program, which is something that is not necessarily thought of. We tend to get our categories pretty shallow and pretty absolute, but rapid rehousing is something that can and should be done in instances where it's warranted. Shelter Plus rental assistance, return to home pilot program, and then a small but vital appropriation for construction and demonstration of innovative temporary housing solutions recommended by the Homeless Assistance Working Group. The working group on our council, statewide council, which still is pretty unique, I'm sorry to say, throughout the country, has been dealing with these circumstances of how do you actually move from shelter to housing? How do you move from homelessness to housing in a way that is effective and does not simply become temporary because of the failure to be able to deal with substance abuse or mental health treatment or some other issue associated with family dysfunction that might actually take people out of the housing that's been made available. So these are appropriations, these programs, they're modest appropriations, but that also gives us an opportunity to in some instances pilot, and in other instances continue services at least until we can take a look at whether we're ready to take other steps in the legislative context. Then, in addition, as I've mentioned housing, and I didn't preface it with one of the aspects of housing, which is public housing, that is to say people who are already in housing. And Representative Cabanilla has stepped up, in my judgment, into an area that in some, I won't say has been neglected, but the administration of public housing has had its own difficulties in the past. I think we've got a dynamite director there now. I think we have a new active board of directors that are working in public housing, and what they need is the assistance of precisely this kind of bill, precisely this kind of legislation, so that they can exercise the kind of authority in the jurisdiction that they have and what we expect in the administration of public housing. This allows the Public Housing Authority to deny admission or to terminate the tenancy of any individual if the applicant or household member owns or acquires a home within the state. I mean, you'd think, yeah, hello. You'd think that this was automatic, right, Rita? But it wasn't and isn't. And there are people, I'm sorry to say, who take advantage. And they take advantage of the goodwill of the community. They take advantage of fellow occupants. In this instance of public housing, sometimes they feel kind of helpless in front of it because they think nobody's paying attention. They think nobody's taking care to pay any attention. And in this instance, the legislature is doing it. And It adds widower. I mean, it's a fact of life now that fact of our military life with the volunteer military that more and more women are entering the armed services and making careers in the armed services. And so it's just not widows and orphans, it's now widower as well in terms of preferences for housing and recognition of those who have made a sacrifice on behalf of the nation's strategic interests. And it adds that parents of disabled veterans should not use their adult child's status as a basis for a housing preference. Again, an angle's always being worked by somebody, sorry to say. And so to the degree and extent we have to have a legislative initiative to nip these kinds of things in the bud, that's what this is about. I suspect this will not be the last intervention that will be made legislatively where we think that people are taking bad advantage of our public housing offering. So I think it's the housing bill is a positive step for housing individuals who are homeless and perhaps are combating mental illness. There's no one-size-fits-all to the question of homelessness, and this legislation, in conjunction with the appropriations I just mentioned, I think will work in that. And the main point here is that families in need will be the ones receiving public housing services. And this gives an opportunity for those who have the responsibility of conducting and administering public housing are going to have another set of tools now to be able to enable them to do their job. So I'm very grateful that all of you are here. Again, there are so many people associated with the success of these bills and associated with the object of the bills, particularly the appropriations bills, that I'm going to ask the legislators to come up when we do the formal signing, because this is in fact a legislative project, and I'll be happy to take pictures individually or in groups with those who are representing all the constituencies out there who will be working with the beneficiaries. Rita?
I'll be happy to do it.
All right, well, thank you very much.
I'll stand on your right side this time.
Okay, very good.
So they know it's a different bill.
Okay. This is the housing bill. Of course. Oh, sure. Absolutely you can. I was going to do it when I sign it, but that's just fine.
Okay, I just would like to give the credit to the director of public housing, because I think these ideas that we have here is really came from him. I mean, it helps when the director go and live in public housing, so he has first-hand knowledge on what goes on within the premises. Thank you, Director.
You notice he stood in the back to see whether anybody was going to smoke, because that's
pretty good.
Okay.
Open container smoking.
Thank you very, very
Thank you for
much.
letting me say
And thank
that.
you for saying it. No, that emphasizes what I'm saying is we're turning this around. There's a new sense of, I want to say, where public housing is concerned, that there is a new sense of confidence out there for those folks who are in public housing, a new sense of participation, a new sense of community, a new sense of their capacity to make a difference and to have a say, and to have that say mean something. And so this is going to help to do it in terms of consolidating that new atmosphere. Okay, housing. And 536, the tenant selection. Done.
You're hired.
I'm hired.
Hold that.
Excuse me, I'm official. There we go.
Okay, right here. 1, 2, and 3. Thank you.
Everybody?
Okay.